We advise the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Everything we listen to, everything we watch, everything we read, everything we wear. Behind all our favorite things, there is an author, an artist, an inventor. Genuine, real, original. Pushing the limits of imagination and innovation for our comfort, our enjoyment. Making life interesting. Enjoy their efforts, respect them. They help shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Intellectual Property on TV. I'm your host, Attorney Sarah Jane Sugitan, bringing you all relevant matters and issues pertaining to copyrights, trademarks, and patents. Tonight, we're going to talk about the missed innovation opportunities that the country has been losing on, not because we don't have enough creative and innovative people, but because there is a lack of awareness on the protection of research and development through the use of the patent system. All of you out there who have researches written on or experimented and in fact produced products that relate to technology and the advancement of the country, please do protect your patents and register them with the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Tonight, we're going to feature the Missed Innovation Opportunities Forum held last March 10 in Makati, Shangri-La, wherein the International Intellectual Property Institute, or the IIPI, headed by Mr. Bruce Lehman, presented the potential of our country when it comes to technology and commercialization. For more of this forum, let's watch this. All right, I'm joined today by the president of the International Intellectual Property Institute, Mr. Bruce A. Lehman, who delivered the keynote speech in this morning's affair organized by the Philippine Intellectual Property Office. To have more information about this event, let's go straight to him. Good morning, Mr. Lehman.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, what is this event about?
This event is about using the patent system to help economic growth in the Philippines, because there's a lot of innovation that's taking place in this country. It's being paid for by taxpayers, basically, where the research is going on in universities and government laboratories, and it's not effectively being patented, and the value is not being captured, so that can be effectively pushed into the private sector to create jobs and economic growth for the country. That's what this is about, and we want to try to address that problem and see how we can fix it.
Are you positive or hopeful that this will help alleviate economic?
Well, we have done some research. We're going to outline that this morning. And basically, we reviewed 1,000 scientific papers that have come out of the Philippines in the last 10 years. And we found two things. One is the number of scientific papers that are coming out of Philippine institutions is increasing at a very rapid rate. So more research is being done here that is publishable in international scientific journals. And secondly, we found that 27% of those papers reveal patentable subject matter or potentially patentable subjects, and yet we don't see any patents being filed. So that means there's a lot of value that's being created here in the Philippines that really isn't effectively being captured and exploited for the benefit of the country and the economy of the Philippines. And that's what we want to try to work on and address, and that's why this is a very positive conference, because clearly there's an awareness of that. The Congress passed a Technology Transfer Act last year, so Philippines hopefully is on the road to addressing that problem and becoming much more technologically competitive using the talent that you have in this country and the resources that's proven in these scientific publications that we've been looking at.
What will be the future activities of IIPI together with the IPO?
Well, we're going to, our next phase is that we're going to work with the Intellectual Property Office to create a blueprint or a roadmap for the Philippines to try to address this problem and more effectively capture this value. And then hopefully that blueprint will be implemented in a very organized way, and then we'll start to see patents by Philippine inventors filed around the world, and we'll start to see, spin-off companies that flow out of this. We'll see licensing to multinational corporations and patent royalties flowing back to the creators in the Philippines and the institutions that funded them. So that's our objective.
Okay, you've worked with other countries.
Yes, we have. Yes.
Which countries have had the same experience as the Philippines?
Well, actually, you saw that in one of the presentations this morning. Countries like Korea, if you go back probably 40 years ago, Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world. Today, Korea has the fourth highest number of patent filings in the world. As world famous companies, it has, your cell phones are coming from Korea, your computers, your televisions, and so on and so forth. And that's a very good example of how they have effectively, as an Asian country, moved technology and research effectively into the commercial sector. Now, Singapore is another place in this region that's very advanced in that regard. Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong about 3 weeks ago. Hong Kong has a very effective program of doing the same thing, so there are other examples, and that's what we hope will happen here in the Philippines.
All right. Lastly, can you tell us more about what the International Intellectual Property Institute does?
Well, the International Intellectual Property is an institute based in Washington, D.C., in the United States, and our purpose is to work with developing countries all around the world to try to help them more effectively capture and exploit the value of human creativity that is taking place in those countries, and so that it contributes to economic growth and prosperity and well-being, not only of their own country but people all over the world. Because actually, when you create a new product, when you come up with a beautiful, wonderful new work of creative arts, I mean, you're in the television business, when you come up with a television program, a play, a movie, whatever it might be, or an invention, you're really doing something that's contributing to the well-being of everybody in the world who can enjoy it, benefit from it, listen to it. So it's really something that benefits everybody. It's a win-win situation, and that's what we're dedicated to promoting at the International Intellectual Property Institute in Washington.
Okay, any messages for our viewers here in the Philippines?
Well, the message is to invent and be creative and be proud of it. And don't be afraid to take credit for it. And hopefully don't be afraid to go and, get a copyright, get a patent, get a trademark in what you're doing, so that you actually will get a stake in it and make some money off from it. That's what the message is. Yes, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Bruce Lemon, for this interview. Yan, good morning po sa inyong lahat. I'm being joined this morning by Attorney Ignacio S. Sapalo, the former director of the Bureau of Patents and Technology Transfer. Yan po yung bureau bago naging Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines na ating kilala na ngayon sa tawag na IPOPHil. Attorney Sapalo is also an engineer, and he is with us this morning to give his thoughts on patent research and of course the advocacies na sinusulong po ng IPOPHil. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yan, ano po yung masasabi ninyo sa report kanina na of the 100% patent filings, 5% ay Filipino filings, everything else is foreign?
It's not surprising because the Philippines right now is not in the industrial R&D mode. It has other priorities. Probably it's understandable because of our very limited resources. And we just hope that with the efforts of the Intellectual Property Office now, this will be improved. The percentages will be better.
Attorney Sapalo, what else should the government do to encourage our inventors to patent their inventions?
Oh, there is a lot, and it's not an easy challenge to address. We have to basically provide the infrastructure. We have to strengthen our science and engineering. Our schools should put some effort and priority in the teaching of the sciences, and have more graduates on engineering and chemistry, etc. Then we will also have to provide substantial funds in support of R&D, especially for the government institutions like the OST, where most of the risk taking can take place, and also to the state universities, which also, especially UP and all the other state universities, in order to develop, formulate new technologies and take a lot of chance of these technologies maybe not being successful all the time, and so the money will not be lost because actually later on, even if one out of 10 will become commercially successful, that would redound to the benefit of the entire country.
If the government is going to pour in more support in terms of finances or funds para po sa ating science and technology sector, in your opinion, is it worth funding po ba our our Filipino scientists and inventors?
Definitely, because our scientists and inventors are very creative and they are very talented. Many of them do not find the right environment in the Philippines. They do not have the facilities to carry out their experiments. So many of them were forced to go abroad and do their inventions, innovation, researches outside of the country.
Attorney Sapalo, dun po sa 5% lang na local filings, is that due to the fact that there is a lack of inventions here in the Philippines, or may lack of awareness lang po to file patents and protect their inventions?
There are a lot of factors involved. Awareness is one of them. And we have to admit that this is not given a lot of priority. But of course, it is understood that this highly complex subject is now being demystified according to the Intellectual Property Office, simplified so that it will be understood. But that is a difficult thing to do. And then also there is a need for, again, infrastructure support. That means that it still will be the government who will have to do a lot of effort, because many in the private sector will not take so much risk in engaging in R&D, where the chances of making money are not very good.
Okay, Attorney Sapalo, you are now in the private sector. You have your own law firm, Sapalo, Veles, Bundangan, Bulilan Law Offices, and you are very active in supporting the Don Bosco Institute in terms of their scientific and R&D. Can you tell us more about that partnership between the SVBB Law Office and Don Bosco?
Yes, very. We have donated a certain amount of funds to the Don Bosco Mandaluyong, and we have set up a foundation that would promote, encourage R&D by the Don Bosco students. As you very well know, Don Bosco is quite well known in the field of technology, and they have a long history, track record on the emphasis of the development of the skills of the craftsmanship of the students on mechanical, electrical, and also the simple basic craftsmanship, and therefore we have chosen Don Bosco as having as a school with a lot of material that can be trained, and hopefully we have actually focused on renewable energy, because it is one of the most important areas which requires which will allow us to develop alternative fuel sources. So renewable energy is the focus of this foundation, and I'm sure the Don Bosco technical people will be in a very good positioned to help us realize these objectives.
Lastly, Attorney Sapalo, do you have any messages for our televiewers and our inventors out there?
The Philippines will never be competitive unless we